Welcome back, everyone, to episode 5 of the second series of the Main Dark Matters podcast. So, today we have an amazing guest, a man who I believe is about to rock your prefrontal cortex, if not your world, whatever shape you believe that world to be. Flat, round, concave, convex, toroidal, field, eyeball. Maybe it's all things at all times, or even more mind blowing. There is no Earth, just like in the Matrix, there is no spoon. What we are starting to epiphanize is that this place, this realm, whatever we want to call it, is not as it seems. Humanity is at a precipice of epic proportions. We really are in end times, the end of another Yuga cycle on the zodiacal wheel of time. Time's not for the faint-hearted, but for the foolhardy and the brave, boldly willing to dissect and reveal the true nature and reality of existence, no matter what the cost. The paradox of time upon us whilst gazing the void of the infinite. So I'm more than delighted to welcome to the show Lawrence Wright. I became aware of Lawrence via a mutual friend of ours, Ant Critchley, who hosts the Stellify podcast. And if you haven't checked out Ant's channel, please do. I'll link it below. Banned from YouTube and removed from most platforms, we can most certainly assume that Lawrence Wright is getting something right. Something so right, the powers that be don't want you to know about it. Lawrence has a mind that more than merely connects the dots, he challenges the thought processes of even the most hardened delver of conspiracy to really open up Pandora's box and lay challenge to the 5D bullshit metaverse frequency that seeks to enslave humanity into a further layer of the nightmare they call the dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. We are the fallen ones, the Elohim. Well, time to jump ship, and Lawrence is here to help and guide us to do just that. Lawrence, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, hi Cal. Yeah, we've had a few technical issues, but we'll just have to, we'll have to go off sound. The message, as long as the message goes out, that's the main thing, isn't it? So, and I don't know where we're
Yeah,
going to
that's
start. I mean, because I could talk to you all day if we were talking about, where it all began and where it's been and how we got here and how we get out. Because there's lots of people now talking about soul traps, but nobody's actually telling you how to get out. They're all saying, well, I'm just going to stand in my sovereignty and I refuse to come back here. Well, that isn't really much help. But once you're out there, wherever that may be, so,
yeah.
Everybody should have some kind of strategy, as to what you should be doing while you're still alive and what you need to do at the point if you should die before it all happens. But say, in my view, this entire timeline is going to end within the next 5 years. So most people are still going to be alive in 5 years when this happens, and the shit's really going to hit the fan. You can see it all happening at the moment with all the madness that's going on. It's just completely insane, and it's going to get worse. And there's a reason for all the insanity, other than that. All the world leaders, they are mind controlled. They are possessed by the dark side, and of course that they do what they're told. They think they even might think they're doing some good, but they're not. But we're all heading. They're deliberately making mistakes so that they get replaced by the one world government, one world everything, antichrist type thing, and that then sets the time ticking for the end of time, which should be when that happens. We're looking at 3.5 years. So when you see that we've got, the one world everything, we've got 3.5 years before this entire timeline is shut down. So most people are not aware of how we actually got here. So we could quickly run through that. So to see how we got tricked into coming here, and the journey that we took to get here. So without going into any great depth on each point, otherwise I could be here all day on each point. So if we just start at the beginning. In the beginning, we'd got the one, the monad, the entity with no name, and we'll call this person the father, and the father then created the mother. So we got a father and the mother. The mother was given a name of Barbello, and the firstborn was the Christ. not Jesus. Jesus was the man. It was the Christ, and his
Yeah.
counterpart was Sophia.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sophia led to us being where we are now because she decided to create on her own, and she created lots of different names. Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, and the demiurge thought he was the true God, the only God, and he made a faulty creation because he decided to create in an area which was made of waste, of discarded creations, like a pile of waste, which is what we're actually made of. We're, um, you know, spirit is giving us the illusion that we're alive. It's the spirit that puts life into the waste. And of course, there were all different stages of man. So I sent you that little chart that I put together about all the different, the golden age, the bronze age, the silver age, the age of heroes, which is at the age of Atlantis, and then we were the next one, which was the Iron Age. And of course, we didn't actually, most people are either a plain soul, yeah, which means they have the soul created by the demiurge, which was vitalized by the energy that the demiurge stole from his mother. Now, we have that soul as well, but you will be a rarity amongst the population. You will be a divine spark. So you're a divine spark within the soul. And that's like 1% or less of the population. There's very few divine sparks out there. So there's like 3 categories of humans, but the divine sparks in the case of man, going through all these different ages, we didn't come along until the etheric realm was created, which would be the age of Atlantis. Okay, we came in then, which was the etheric realm, and basically that was about as far as this creation was supposed to go. This dense reality that we're in now, that was never part of the plan. And we didn't want to come here. We didn't want to come into the dense reality. And the reason that happened was the demiurge was out of power. So he embodied himself in the entire creation. And when he did that, it was fission. So he said, as he split himself, he created all the so-called archons, the good ones and the bad ones. And they all found their level, the evil ones at the bottom and the good ones at the top, but he used up all his energy and he needed help, so he called on the hyper universes, which is where we're from. This is not our home, and we, the divine sparks, came down to help. And so what we did, we put ourselves in one of the souls that he created. So we never had a soul before, so we put on one of the souls. And we took an avatar in the etheric realm. But when we did that, they could see the magnificence of what the divine sparks were. They could see that we were so much smarter than them, and they couldn't have it. They couldn't have their entire creation with us better than them. And so we were all spiritually lobotomized, which was covered by Zeus. If you look at Zeus, where he says, I shall split them in two, which is what he did. So he separated us, we're the divine sparks, from our higher self. Yeah. So we've been spiritually lobotomized. And of course, separation causes all sorts of distress. That's why now most humans try and, compensate it with the faux other half. You say you've got a partner, a man's got a wife, wife's got a man. They call it the other half because half of you is missing, and that other half is your higher self. So the divine sparks were the male aspect, of the fullness of the individual, and the feminine aspect is the higher self, which was sent to the outskirts of this matrix, and still there now. And of course, we became very distressed and wanted to reunite after we were spiritually lobotomized, we wanted to reunite with our other half. And some of us did, lots of us did, and managed to escape and go back to where the true light is. We were the 1 in 10 who were obstinate and said, look, we're stopping here. But we didn't want to go into the really dense matter where we are now. And so they had a problem, and they had to trick us into coming here. So what the demiurge did, or Zeus, same thing, Greek mythology, all these different creation stories, they're all the same. They're just told in a different way with a different theme to it. But they're basically telling symbolically what the same story is. And to make us come down here, what they did, they created a fake higher self, a fake feminine counterpart. And we went off in search of them, and we got enchanted by them. And this is the story of Pandora. This Pandora in Greek mythology, but it just wasn't one Pandora. There was many Pandoras. And we were enchanted with them because we thought they were our genuine other half. So we went off in search of them, and we were enchanted. But what happened? The Pandoras, they incarnated into dense matter, and we could see them, because we were higher than the gods. We could see from the etheric realm into the dense realm where these Pandoras, very beautiful creatures, went. And of course, we wanted to become embodied with them and become whole again. So we incarnated into the bodies of the Pandoras, to become one again, thinking we become one, but we weren't. And so that was the time. That was why initially, patriarchally, it was a matriarchal society, because all the really smart people, the divine sparks, were in these feminine bodies of the Pandoras, and that's how it was, and that's how we ended up here, and then the whole cycle carried on. We were sort of immensely more powerful than we were now. We had, they call it the, at the moment we've got whatever DNA we've got. We had eventually more, whatever it was, the 12 strands instead of the 2 strands, and we could actually manifest by thought anything, and and these thoughts would actually appear, and we created all sorts of monsters and God knows what else, which were causing rampage on this dense earth. And of course, that brought out the need to end the creation, so the plan was to flood the world and kill everybody off. But what happened? The divine sparks, the divine sparks, they wanted to save the divine sparks because we are the primary energy source. And so they did. So whether it was on a boat or whatever, the divine sparks were saved. And of course, everything else got killed off. They obviously kept all the, the samples and sperm and everything else of all the creatures. But there wasn't many people left. And so the people were repopulated by the divine sparks. And what they did, according to Greek mythology, they threw stones behind them. This is what Zeus said. He said, throw bones behind you, and these bones came to life. It's like, people say that's like magic. We can't do that. But, this is a magical world that we're in. And that story is part of Greek mythology. But this population that we created were the people that we now refer to as NPCs, because they didn't have a soul. There's a finite number of souls, because the souls require energy from the true light to create a soul. It's made of the true light energy and the matter from this energy and various combinations of it. And that was all spent. So to create more life, they had to be, a pseudo soul, made out of something else. And this was made by the so-called skeptomorphs. The thought forms that we made, created these NPCs, and they form the vast majority of the world's population, which is why, you know, people say we are the 99%. Well, we ain't even the 1%, you know, so we can never change this reality. We can't bring it down because we're a tiny fraction of what's going on. We are the most powerful people here, but our power has been subdued because we've been lobotomized, so to speak. So, you know, so you've got your divine sparks, you've got your plain souls. Your plain souls are, so the three categories. You've got the divine sparks, that's you and me, people who, a lot of the people who are watching this, chances are they're going to be divine sparks, because the plain souls certainly probably won't watch it. And the astral people, the NPCs, ain't going to be watching this now. You know, a lot of people say, well, yeah, you're putting yourself above gods. Well, we are, because the gods are flawed. The gods were created by the, you know, by the demiurge. And the plain souls, you know, they're like deeply religious type people, you know, so they go along with all these religions that we have, but they've all got one common theme. They've all got the same God. We just dress it up in different ways, but it's the same God, the creator of this matrix. You say, but they think the God of this world is the creator of everything, but it's not. It's just the creator of this flawed world that we're in. And they think Jesus was the son of the true creator that I told you about at the first, the one, you know, the monad and Barbello, but he's not. You know, you look at the Old Testament, the murderous God of that, you know, and then you look at what Jesus did. They were just like chalk and cheese, you know, they're two totally different characters, but they just get around that by saying, well, God moves in mysterious ways. Well, yeah, no, he tells people to murder your own son and starts wars and, you know, has meetings with Satan to talk about how they're going to, you know, torture Job in the Job story. So, you know, I'm totally absurd, but, you know, because it's God, they just make excuses for him. And that's how it is. So this is where we've been, numerous reincarnations in this universe and in parallel universes. So we've got, when this place was created, you know, this is just totally holographic. You know, we're just pixels on photographic paper, given the illusion that we're real by the holographic converters, which are our brain. But when it was created, there was the universe and an anti-universe. And if you can imagine that they're both mirrors, you stand in a room where there's two mirrors in the middle, and you'll see all these other mirrors coming out of everywhere down the mirrors. You must have done it sometime. You're looking in one mirror and you're in between two mirrors. You know, you can see all these other mirrors. Well, they formed all the parallel universes that people talk about. And they get vitalized to a certain extent by our thoughts that don't turn into everything, because all your thoughts they all go somewhere, you know, and they get stored up and they form an energy place. But the problem we've got now, the problem that the creators of this realm have got now is they're running out of energy to power this place, and they have to do something about it. And that's what this is all about now. All this AI stuff, all this metaverse stuff, all these iPhones, and you know, you go on YouTube, you go on search on your computer for something now, and you get the AI answer at the top telling you, you know, this is the answer. And it's going more and more and more to that. And you've had all these Black Mirror films telling people what their conscious uploaded, because what they're planning on doing, they're planning on taking people who are tricked into this to go to one of these parallel universes where it requires less energy, or where they can use that energy. Because this place we're in now is being closed down, not by the demiurge. He wouldn't want it closed down, but outside forces are going to be closing it down, you know, and they're going to come and take the divine sparks out if they're ready, you know. And if you're not ready, you know, if you've not been prepared, then you might not get out, and you might have to go back in some kind of time loop back into the reality you've already lived, which will be downgraded every time you go back, because, you know, the more sparks they get out, then there's less energy to power it. And some will actually go to this, you know, 5D reality promoted by New Age. And that is
Yeah.
going to be the fate worse than hell. This is what this stuff at Roswell was. When all these people came back, they were actually time machines. You know, the guy who examined the technology of Roswell concluded they weren't spaceships, they were time machines. Because once you're outside this reality, you know, in a less dense reality, you can move through time. Because we don't know how to
Yeah.
do it, but they do, because, you know, they get enhanced mental capacity or whatever, and they can transverse time. And they came back here to try and change their future, but which was pointless because you can't do it. You know, all you can do is try and create an alternative timeline, which they ain't going to be in. So here
Yeah.
we are now, you know, with no clue where we've been before, what lives we've lived in the past, you
Yeah.
know, and people
Yeah.
start talking about, yeah, I mean, all these videos that come out and they just say, yeah, just don't follow the lights, you know, stay out of the lights, stand in your sovereignty, you know. But
It's not enough.
these areas, these realms that people go into after death, and we may end up having to go there, then that is the big problem, because if you don't know what you're doing, they're going to trick you into coming back. The biggest problem is, and people don't realize this, is that, you know, if we turn the clock back 150 years, nobody got cremated. Everybody was buried. But now nearly
Yeah.
everybody is cremated. So you've got various bodies, without going into them. You've got this dense body, then the next less dense one is the etheric body. Now you can, if you see someone that's got the special photography, it will appear like the aura around your body. If you go to some of these mind, body, spirit shows, they'll have the special photography, and you can actually take a picture away of your own aura. Well, that's your etheric body. But if you burn the dense body, you're destroying the etheric body. So once that happens, if you're cremated a week after you die, you're going to move directly from the etheric body to the astral body. And the astral body is the body of emotions. That's the body you first have when you're a child. Now, you know what children are like. You know, they're all emotional, aren't they? You know, the logic isn't there. They're just running off their emotions. So you're stuck in this astral realm trying to get out of here, and all you've got are your emotions. And you ain't going to be able to think anything logically and standing in your sovereignty. You're shafted. And you'll get brought before the karmic review committee. Yeah. All these so-called ascended masters, yeah, it will project before you your entire recorded life, you know, all the bad bits that you do, and they'll be saying, yeah, you got to go back, and you'll go along with it because you ain't got the mental capacity to argue the case, you know, because what you need to do there, if you took some nous with you, is you need to invoke the blood ransom that Christ gave, which was payment for us to be allowed to go home. That's what it was. It was a blood ransom. Yeah. And if you invoke that ransom before this karmic review committee, you know, then you get they're obliged to let you go. But if you've been cremated, you ain't going to have the nous to do that. You'll have forgotten it. You know, when
It's
you
funny
get
how
out
it's
of here,
actually.
when you get out of here, yeah, the etheric body itself breaks down in line with the dense body. So it's apparently it lasts about 40 days. So whatever you're going to do outside of here, you've got 40 days to do it. Now, whether time moves differently there, we don't know. But you know, but as the body breaks down here, then your etheric body over there is going to break down as well, and ultimately it will dissolve, and you'll be moving to the astral body.
Yeah. So
So
you've got kind of the irony is, if we're kind of like, almost kind of trapped in, into this condensed matter by time, if you're burning your body, like you say, then you've kind of no chance. It's interesting, actually. I was having this conversation with somebody the other day about how well, who was it? I can't remember anyway. But they still bury people, but of course, like, going back however long, you would have just been placed like wrapped in like a muslin cloth, wouldn't you? They didn't burn people then. Well, not going way, way back. And obviously, they kind of used to mummify people and all kinds of different stuff. And I didn't know kind of any details of it, but I've got to thought that was a con. I mean, Stephen J.D. Beatty says that they started to bury bodies because the Elvens because they weren't human, so that they couldn't kind of identify that fact back then. So, but one thing that I have found is that the our origin myths stay very similar, like we were saying with Joey Phipps. Mankind's origins are surprisingly consistent, like you said, Lawrence. Yeah, there's the devil's in the detail, and it shifted, it changes culturally, and all kinds of different things. And even with what you've just been saying there is pretty much similar to what everyone's saying in a way. That, like I say, the devil's in the detail, but the narrative generally and the origins, are they're similar because you talk about and going to Atlantis. I think I wrote it down because my memory's like a sieve. But that was obviously like the more, was it etheric time? Yeah, of Atlantis.
They
Now I
they were split between the two. Yeah, the
yeah
Atlanteans. The Atlanteans were the first to incarnate into dense matter, but that entire
yeah no
civilization was
yeah
wiped out by
yeah.
some, you know,
And I think that
by
the
some
Atlanteans,
cataclysmic event.
apparently we kind of incarnated through, stargates and portals around the North Sea, around there, which then fits in with Neil's work and Stephen's work. And, that's why, I wanted to get you on. And again, thank you for being here because it all just kind of fits in. It fits in with the stuff we're talking about, Tony says. Now, like I say, the devil's definitely in the details. So we all have different nuances to it. But I think we're all agreeing on this. Well, we absolutely are. We're all agreeing on the same principles about this place being a trap. I mean, back to we call it the demiurge Yaldabaoth. Joey Phipps says it was the original syntax error, that something, like he created his own code basically. So back to kind of how we are these divine sparks, like kind of expanding on that. So obviously we've kind of come here, we've been tricked, and it's the masculine principle looking for the kind of twin. That's the original twin flame, isn't it? Really, all this kind of new age 5D nonsense of what a twin flame is us seeking our higher self out of this place. Really, I think, isn't it?
Well,
But
this is
if
what
we're not careful, we're
the
trapped.
new age will teach you. It's all about, they'll say, yeah, they'll get a man and a woman together, and they'll say you need to have this sexual energy between you, and then you will unite spiritually, which is all bollocks. The all this kundalini that everybody talks about, that is a trap. Because if you actually manage to activate the kundalini and up to as far as the third eye, then you
Yeah,
will be taking the gifts of the demiurge, because you'll get all these special powers. And if you use them, then you're effectively doing a deal with them, and they'll expect payment in return, because they don't give you anything for
yeah.
nothing. And
Right
in
now, that's
doing
in.
that, you've done a deal with them, and you're never going to get out of this place. All your
Yeah,
ascended masters, yeah, they have probably have all activated their kundalini to the sixth energy center, third eye, yeah, and they can be very good, kind people, and they are the ones who get to go to the place called nirvana, which is the matrix version of heaven. Yeah, but they
yeah,
get
yeah.
so bored there eventually. They have to reincarnate, because there's very little happening there.
Yes, yeah. Well, I see that, and that would make sense as well. And again, it fits in with Tony's stuff about the chakras. And obviously, he's for chakra removal, saying that light body, I suppose, in the sigil of light and Lucifer that we create and project back and within the hologram, like as we know now, that yeah, the kundalini, the chakras, all this kind of stuff are just more soul traps to, like you say, you again, it's the same thing Tony says, but with a different language, in much more detail, the way you kind of explain it. So there's this kind of that's again, like Tony says, that therein lies the trap. And he also talks about the false kind of heaven, that nirvana, as you say, because if we are these gods, Lawrence, like as we know, we're these divine sparks rather, that we create the gods, really, all these archons, etc. That we are, like, our gang's kind of bigger and better than your gang, and we've just kind of forgotten from these kind of, these reincarnation, the forgetting, the lobotomies, etc. I always think that if something's restricting you and confining you, and saying that this is the way you need to do this to get that, and follow me and I'll, you will ascend, and all this stuff, it just, there's something not right about it to me. It's just like, if we can remember who we are, know thyself, which is why, on this channel we talk a lot about the legal fiction, we
It's
talk a
about,
lot about the
yeah,
system, we
yeah.
talk then really I go, who are you to tell me? Because I'm a fucking god, right? I'm my status is higher than yours. It's the same in the legal fiction. So why are
Yeah.
we following all these codes and creeds of them to tell? I think all those things exist, like you said, to keep us lower and to keep us trapped. Whatever that
Yeah.
box is, it
Yeah.
wants you in a box of your
They are.
choosing. You pick it, or we
There,
pick it, don't we? I think.
there are a couple of ways to get out. Okay. Out of this
Let's hear
place. So,
it. We gotta get out of this place. There's a song there, isn't there, somewhere?
oh yeah, the Animals, great band. Yeah. There are a couple of ways to get out. So basically, you need to, one of the ways is that you need to loathe this world. You know, you need to basically this world is the oscillation of the snake, and you need to avoid all the extremes of the oscillation and take the middle path, um, and lose all your attachments for the pleasures of this world. Because if you're still attached to the pleasures of this world, you're never going to get out. Now, most people are not prepared to give them up, and if that's the case, you're going to be coming back. Because if you love this world, you're guaranteed a return ticket. So if you're a divine spark, the divine sparks have got the best chance of getting out, because we have independent thought, even though we've got the soul made by the demiurge, who he invigorated that with the power of his mother. Everybody else is controlled by the demiurge. Their thoughts are. We're the divine sparks are the only free thinkers that are out here. There can be some other very intelligent people out there that are just the plain soul, so to speak, but they don't have the three. Their thoughts are confined. So you can have all these really intelligent graduates at Oxford and Cambridge, but they're not divine sparks. And they're limited as to, they won't step outside the box, whereas we would. So if you can detach yourself from, all the things of this earth and have a real desire to go home, then, the chances are that you're going to get out in the next 5 years. Yeah. And that you'll basically cease to you'll cease to project your body on the fabric of this creation. You'll just, to other people, you'll just vanish, which is documented in the Bible, where it talks about, there are two women in the field, one shall disappear, the other will remain. Two women grinding at the mill, one will disappear. But what they're doing, they're ceasing to be projecting themselves on that, and they actually get transferred. The body doesn't, but the spiritual aspect of you gets transferred. And it's a place that they talk about the many mansions in the Bible. When Jesus said, "My Father's house has many mansions." Well, what that is, it's like a holding area where if you're going to escape, you're going to be going there for 1,000 years in preparation to go back home. Now, 1,000 years sounds like a long time, doesn't it? But it's not. In real time, it's hardly anything. It's a day. When Mary Magdalene spoke to Jesus and said, "Tell me about time in the true light," he told her, one day of the true light is 1,000 years here. So if you live to 80 years old, in real time, you've lived about 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's because we're in a black hole, or we're in a black hole called white hole. We're in 2 dimensions in the black hole, which is projected into 3 dimensions into the white hole. But to an outside observer, somebody in a black hole, the time has stopped. Yeah, it's stopped. So anybody outside the black hole, they go a day, and we've got 1,000 years. So if people in the true light are trying to help us, then if it takes them an hour of their time to do it, then it's going to take like 30 years of our time for it to manifest. And at the moment, they're taking down this matrix. It's been dismantled. That's why you're getting all these glitches. It's coming down. There's so many glitches going on now, so much strange stuff going on. And
it is weird.
And then you see what's happening in America now. What's happening in Florida? Everybody's getting, they're evacuating Florida. We're in the middle of the end times. You know, all these world disasters, they're going to get worse and worse and worse. And
Yeah.
what's going to happen? Yeah, well, basically, because all the energy is being removed, that, you know, the sacred archetypes of creation are being removed. So what's going to happen is all that is hidden in the astral world is going to become visible to us, and so the
Right.
dark side of the astral is going to manifest in front of us, and we'll think they're aliens. Yeah, the dark and the positive side of the astral, they'll come along as the saviors who are going to say, well, we've got a new place, we're going to take you away, we're going to save you, and we're going to take you to a new place. Well, they're going to take you to the 5D, you know, the horrible place where you become devoid of all spirit.
Yeah.
That's what's
Wow.
going to happen.
And do you are they doing this, Lawrence? This 5D metaverse, which we can see with the Elon Musk stuff, and it's all laid out there. I mean, in the early episodes of Dark Matters, I kind of went over, I suppose, old kind of studying and researching knowledge with the Law of One, and we interviewed Laura Eisenhower and Sasha Stone, which all kind of purports this not so much the Law of One, but this 5D kind of consciousness all the time, and obviously that new age stuff which we've been calling out on this channel now, particularly in the last second, in the second series. It was nice to give the backdrop in the first, but really, that metaverse is the track. I talked about in the introduction, row 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 you brought gently down the stream. They want us in this next level of dreaming, don't they? I call it a nightmare, but they let's call it dreaming, call it a nightmare, because that's what it would be. So because like with what Stephen says, he says they can't leave. These archons, or who, the negative archons, and correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong in the way you perceive it. They can't leave here. Like Stephen says, they can't. They need to get out through the belt of Orion apparently, and they can't get out. So they want us, as you say, as divine sparks, as many of us brainwashed, lobotomized, and trapped in this next level of dreaming, so that we can't get out. And as you say, it's all to do with time, isn't it? So they're creating almost, say we're in the Saturnian cube box now, they're creating a box within a box, so
Yeah,
that really, once, if you're going into that next level or layer, you're going to get stuck there, and the capacity to get out is again extremely diminished, if at all possible. Is that kind of right
yeah,
or not?
yeah. It is. They, the new age is obviously going to be tied in with the mark of the beast. So
Mm-hmm.
life is going to get really tough here, but the divine sparks, they'll be, you'll get help, we'll get help.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is this mark of the beast is going to be basically the means to buy and sell, to go to the shops and buy your food and everything else. But if you
Yeah.
accept it, you're doing a deal with a demiurge to go to his 5D reality. So whatever happens, you have to,
So,
let's say you're living in your fancy apartment somewhere, and you've got all the nice things in life, and then they come along and say, well, we're closing your bank account now, but we're going to give you this chip, which we're going to inject into your body, so they can take over your mind, basically. And you'll still get the money, and you'll be able to use it digitally. Now, if you sign up
yeah.
for that, if anybody signs up for that, then you're going to be going to the 5D world. That's what's going to
Yeah.
happen. And a lot of people will, because, this world's going to be, as this world is being destroyed, natural disasters, and, we're seeing it now with the price of everything's getting so much more expensive, and people are becoming impoverished. I mean, it's getting ridiculous now. The price of food's doubled since COVID, literally. I
Yeah.
post things, Royal Mail, the things I post in large letters were 96p pre-COVID. 96p is now gone up to £2.60. Well, that's a huge increase in 4 years, isn't it? And that's what we're going to get, more and more impoverished, because this is what this universal credit's all about, isn't it? It's about, you can't have this money unless you take this chip. That's what it's going to boil down to. But they won't do it in one go. They'll do it stage by stage, so that people get trapped into the system. This is how it's going. But
Well, is that
the other,
energetic again? that
Yeah,
consumerism, that consuming, it wants you, in frequency senses, in that state, it wants you submitting, it wants you within that next layer of the box, of the system, of the matrix. Whereas, a lot, and that's what this Dark Matters channel is all about. It's all about sovereignty in its true sense, in removing yourself from the system, having the awareness, of it,
yeah,
like you said, to grow our own food. I would say, as that's moving into that, it's almost like we need to move back. It's like a timeline split, isn't it? Like you say. So the ones that do know, or the divine sparks or whomever, we want to get back to the land. We don't want anything to do with that system. We have said no from the beginning to it, to the jibby jabs, to and
yeah,
this, this absolute, it's like a rock crushing down on people, and you're either going to say no, no matter what it costs you, like Neo in the Matrix. That's basically what he says in the end. He just turns around to that beast and says no, and starts
yeah,
to remember who he is, and that's the key point. Whereas everyone else is going to go into these next levels, these next boxes, etc., and so on, aren't they? And it's
yeah.
energetic. It's got to be energetic in that sense. And like I always say, know thyself, remember who you are, get back to the land, remove yourself from that matrix so you don't have that dependency on it. So when it comes for you to make those decisions, you can say, you empower yourself to say no to it.
Yeah, you're gonna have, however bad it gets, I mean, try and do some preparation so you've got food or whatever. But everybody needs to do
Yeah.
something. I mean, I started 4 years ago. I've got a cellar full of stuff. I've given a lot of it away now because I didn't know when it was going to happen. But are we going to get this so-called Project Blue Beam coming along, where people, you say if they wanted to keep secrets, they can keep secrets. When secrets, so-called secrets, get revealed, there's a plan behind it. It's like double dealing. So whatever you see in the sky with this Project Bluebeam, it's actually going to be real. They want you to think it's just holograms in the sky, but it is actually
Right.
real. This is the end that's coming.
So
And the
that
other
that
thing,
that like when you say about the blue beam, because obviously that's a big
yeah,
thing in truth as perceptions, and like you said,
yeah,
because the veil is going to get thinner and thinner and thinner as this world dissolves, and they want you in the new one because they need to
yeah,
feed or loosh on us over there, and we start to see the true, that's what's happening, isn't it? That's why they
yeah,
want to reset time, and I always say we're having this reveal of what's going on. Then we'll be kind of over here, and everything will start going back. The veil will drop, really, won't it? And they don't want us like waking up to that. So they're trying to desperately reset and push us over there, aren't they?
exactly, yeah. I mean, you talk about loosh, but people forget. We're not top of the food chain. We are part of the food chain, and loosh is
Yeah.
is is one of the energies that they take. But the big meal that they get is after death, where they dismember the soul.
God.
All the emotions trapped in the soul goes down to the lowest level, to the dark side, and all the negative emotions then that are trapped in the soul are released and becomes a feast for the monsters. And all the emotions that you've got trapped that you wouldn't able to fulfill, they're going to feed on them. Then you go to the higher levels, and they're going to feast on all these things as they strip down your soul. But that's what they do. So when your soul's recycled, it has to be stripped down first to be an empty soul, to then be put into a fresh body, or maybe the same body you just come out of. But most people don't talk about that. But that is what happens, because don't forget,
Yeah.
when you come down here, you know everything's wiped, isn't it? So all your past memories are gone, and that's what happens with stripping the soul down. All your memories are gone, aren't they? Everything that you know
Yeah.
is recorded there, all your thoughts and everything else.
Well, and that's like what Tony says, like about Earth School. This is a place for your learning. And all this nonsense that we get told. Well, why wipe our memories? It doesn't make any sense, does it? When you break things down just to logic and sense, that's basically what makes me question. Like it's like Mulder in the X Files. I was always like question everything, and I always did, even from being a little girl. Like most kids do, and they beat that out of us, don't they? Asking the why. And then we spend all our lives being trapped by the system, and chasing this kind of pseudo spirituality, when really, actually, that's why it says in scripture, for the kingdom is within, because the divine spark is within us, and we just have to kind of resist that beast system. Or I loved how you said the oscillation of the serpent, that kind of, to be kind of trapped further and
Well,
further
that's it.
into.
It is, because if you
Yeah.
get great joy from anything, it's usually followed by some kind of sadness. And it's the way the law of karma works. It has to be balanced out. So if you do a good deed, somebody else does a bad deed to balance it out. But in end times, what you get in end times is an excess of evil, an
Yeah.
excess of the negative energy. And if you feed an excess of negative energy into, say, a computer board, it will melt, won't it? And you go looking at the Illuminati card, which shows, it says, the one that says tape runs out, you see the earth split in two. It's melting. Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a
Wow.
picture of a spool of tape. So, there's probably three paths for man. The Hopi Indians talk about two, but all the pastimes that are still there, they will probably slowly wither out, but they will probably replay, because we've lived this life many times. I mean, because like the guys who came back from Roswell, the J-Rods, the ones with the great big funny eyes and great big heads and tiny necks, and
Yeah.
like the ET characters. Yeah, well, that
Yeah.
is us in the future. That is us in the future. So we may have already had this discussion in the past timeline, and we didn't get out, did we? If we did, we didn't get out because we're back here again. And so people are so adamant that they're going to get out, but this is a big one. So for all the lives you live in a timeline, I mean, my view is that you have 12 lives in a timeline. Yeah. And you go, you'll incarnate, you'll live that life, and then you'll have a period of rest in the nether region, wherever that is, and then you'll take another life. But this is the last life of the timeline. This
Right.
this timeline cannot go on, because it is a life that would be so horrible that nobody would want to come here, would they? Can you imagine what it's going to be like here, the way it's going at the moment? I mean, it's absurd, isn't it? You'll see all these people gathered round. You'll see couples in the pub with a meal, and they're just looking at their phones. And you go past the bus stop, and everybody. I don't carry one of these cell phones, but everybody. It's like their third arm. They all carry it round with them. The only reason I have one is
The black
because if I
cube.
want to buy something online, yeah, sometimes they say we need to check who you are. We're going to send you a code. Otherwise, I wouldn't have one. But for
Yeah.
everybody, even the kids now, they've all got these devices. And the next stage is to put that device in the brain, isn't it?
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
go,
And like you
people go out
say,
now, they forget their cell phone, whatever you want, their iPhone. If they go out, they have to go home and get it.
panic. Yeah.
Because
Yeah. And it's so interesting with us being that generation.
if
We
the
didn't have
internet
the
goes down,
internet.
people are desperate. What am I going to do? I live on Facebook. You look at most people, how much time does the average individual
Yeah.
spend looking at a screen now? It's an
Yeah.
obscene amount of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
do it, but
Yeah.
we spend, compared to, 1980, where we didn't, you'd look at the TV maybe, but you wouldn't spend all your time looking at screens, because
Mm.
that's what they do. And while you're looking at that, you're diverted from any spiritual connection that you might get, because
Yeah.
that's what all these rabbit holes are for, is to divert that's what all the flat earth was about, which I got sucked into. Is to divert all your attention from everything else. And that only benefited me, because me and Laurie Frary, who did the channel, we went into it in great depth, and we concluded that this place had to be a simulated reality, because neither model worked. The globe didn't work, and the flat earth
Yeah.
didn't work, because you had to be in either one or the other. But now it's a holographic creation, and it's like the spoon in the Matrix, that there is no earth. There is nothing
Yeah.
out there. What we think that's out there is actually inside our brain. It's just that the brain's decoding it as what you see.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
No, I
how
I, I agree with that as well.
this isn't art. What you think people think is their brain that does the thinking. The brain doesn't do any thinking at all. The brain's just a receiver of information, which then decodes it.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think, Lawrence, as well? I mean, going back to our origins as well, because we covered a lot on dark matters, and it's just all different nuances of it. So obviously, there's the demiurge and or Yaldabaoth or whatever you want to call that entity. I mean, in the Law of One, it was, and the stuff that we're doing with Neil and Stephen, it was the, it's the Orion group in fourth density negative time space, and it goes back again how we experience space time here. It's time space outside of this construct. So space is the field here, and time is the river. Whereas out there, time's the field and space is the river, which is how they can maneuver through, and
Yeah,
time travel ultimately. It was a physicist, an alternative physicist. He was called Dewey Larson, who talked about this thing called reciprocal theory and brought all that in. And I've mentioned it before on the channel. So they can kind of view these timelines, but this Orion group obviously is where the Anunnaki fell, or
yeah,
like I know you say that we are the fallen angels and the Elohim, which fits in with Stephen stuff, but these whatever these non-human creatures are that they fell to Earth via that constellation to the Orion group. The Canis Major, which is why it's all Canaanite and Canis worship and Dog Star and the Vatican meaning Papa, the Dog Star and all that kind of stuff. And that they are these hybrid humans, these shepherd kings of the Anu that have been kind of shepherding the rest of us as like a the Matrix, the farm, kind of very much similar to the films. Is that kind of how you kind of explain our origins and myths to kind of how we got to this point? Obviously, I know it's a little bit different with you with the higher self, and that we kind of got trapped here in that sense. Because I had a bit of a vision that I had three light beings at the end of the bed many years ago, and people who followed my channel will have heard me talk about that story. And they told me that I chose to come here, that I've come to help. Do you think, well, the two questions are origin myths. Is that the same as how you perceive it? And then the other question is, do you think some of us galactically come in through these star gates or these portals to come and aid and assist the other divine sparks, or to release the grip of the demiurge, they call it, if that kind of, as I say, makes any sense?
well, yeah, but that's an interesting thought. Yeah, people say, yeah, that we came back to try and get everybody else out of here, but
Mm,
Christ is the only one I know who came back, because he came back with all his knowledge. If we come back, we'd obviously came back through born into a woman with no memory of anything. So
mm.
if we could, if you, let's say you could escape here, you know, would you come back? You know, if they
I
say, well, we're going to
probably
wipe
would.
your mind
I'm a,
again,
I'm a,
because you're going to, half your life at least going to go pass you by before you actually start figuring out there's something wrong. I mean, I would have never have figured anything was wrong. Um, I mean, I only found out when I was about 40 that there was something quite wrong. Pre-internet, that there was something wrong
yeah,
with this. When I watched I bought a VHS video saying what really happened on the moon, and then a couple of 2 or 3 years later, I thought, God, if they lie about that, what else would they do? And I just went onto the computer. This
yeah,
was in the time of dial-up, the dial-up, and I just typed in 911 conspiracy, and then all this stuff came up, and then that was it. But if we didn't have the internet now, most of us would be ignorant. And you think, well, why? If they wanted to keep us trapped here permanently, why would they give us the means to find out all this information? And the reason for that is because they need to escape here. If they didn't need to escape here, they'd have kept us in ignorance. But they need to escape here. So basically,
yeah,
they need us into technology and everything else like that. And that's why, all the things that you've ever bought online, they'll have all that information. They'll know what type of spectacles you're wearing. They'll know what
yeah,
size your inside leg is, what bra size you're having. They'll know what food you like. They'll read all your messages. They've probably made, for me and you and other people, they've probably made a digital version of you ready to load your conscience in, if they can persuade you, because that's what they want to do.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what they want to do, because everything's gone. Why is everything gone digital from analog? What was the point of that? Analog music, the old LPs, it's a lot better than the new stuff. The music, isn't it?
And it's a digital prison, isn't it? I mean, we're already in this kind of holographic. I think we can all agree now that pretty much we can all state that. Like you say about the shape of the earth, again, these are things that you've sent me, which I've weaved into your intro. So I'm not taking credit for them at all. It was just to give you that flavour of what we were going to speak about. I think we can all agree that we're in a matrix now. I mean, we've seen it I've seen it so many times on a personal level. I mean, like I say, I was told that I came here. I'm a bit of a kamikaze mother.
Oh,
So
you
it wouldn't
well,
surprise me if I kept choosing to come back, or I don't think any of us all have the answers. And as I always say, if you're somebody who's saying you have got all the answers, then or somebody is saying that, run away from them. You are in a cult. But it is about
yeah.
data. Data,
I do have
commodity.
a
It's
theory on
actually
that actually.
oil and
If you were
yeah,
going to come back, yeah, if somebody
why
said to
would
me,
you?
"You're going to come back," then I'd want to avoid all the nasties, and I'd say, "Look, you know, I'm going to need
Yeah.
some protection for me to get through this life, because I don't think
Mm,
divine sparks can commit suicide. Other people can, but divine sparks can't. It's not
yeah.
in their makeup to do that. And if you look at what's happened throughout your life, all the near misses that you've had. I mean, I've had a head-on crash with a lorry at 80 mile an hour in West Germany
Yeah.
in the Black Forest. Head-on
Wow.
crash with a lorry, and I walked away virtually unscathed.
See,
I
I believe that as well.
crashed
I've
another
got a theory. I
motorbike
call it the armor of God,
into a
but
brick wall and went through it, totally destroyed it,
yeah, wow.
unscathed. Lots of others, and you think, well, somebody out there looking after my interests so that I do whatever I'm going to do. Relatively wealthy because I owned 6 properties and I got lots of money coming in, and all that went tits up with the credit crash, and I went from having that to having nothing, and I much prefer to have the nothing now than what I had then because I wasn't happy. I just got ridiculous amounts,
Mm,
earning more money in a day sometimes than some people had earned in a year. But it didn't make me
wow.
happy, because I just squandered it all. So circumstances, you think it's just happening by chance, but I think our lives are somewhat scripted, you know, because
Yeah.
I could tell you other things that, well, I won't tell you online, but I've had things that are like billions to one chances, and the only way that could happen is in a scripted reality. It just couldn't happen.
Yeah.
You've
And
probably
I
got.
think that's we interviewed Logan from Decode Your Reality. He talks a lot about scripted reality and decodes reality with numbers. He always says narratives lie, numbers don't. And we are in a data war. It's a digital information minefield. And like you said, that's all purposely done with all those kind of rabbit holes to keep us playing that game and feeding it with that energy rather than kind of looking within. And I think the Christ is certainly a consciousness, but I also think because we are the creators, it also occurred. But yeah, I think it is because when you get I've mentioned this again, people who follow the channel, but I had my astrology chart done, and without going into it, I mean, it literally is what I do and who I am. Like, I don't believe that that's a coincidence. With that's why I always call it the zodiacal wheel of time
Oh, it
because
is. Yeah.
it's kind of that's what I think we have to break. I think I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Like, that we know that we move through these ages and these yugas, etc., and
Yeah.
that like you say, these timelines are splitting because it's crumbling. But I think that it is kind of like that we do. It is that transition, but I think. Yeah, I think it definitely is scripted, and we all play our parts. And I think it is about crashing those ages. I think it's like crash the whole thing because I think it'll always maneuver you into like we'll go into this like you say 5D new age metaverse nonsense, and that'll be another new age somewhere, and it'll be like I call this the hell realm. You're in hell. You think that's air you breathe, and you're already dead. So again, if you've got an attachment to this place, then like you said, you can be sure that you're going to come back if you're enjoying it. But if you can, cleanse the doors of perception and see things as they truly are, then you can, it's time to get out. But it's very interesting, like you
Yeah.
said, that there's these different layers and levels of because we in despair, don't we? We're like with the NPCs, like how are they not seeing this? But
Yeah.
now we kind of know why, don't we? And it is a game and it is a script. And are you going to keep going along with that script, or are you going to rip it up and set it on fire and grab your popcorn and get out?
Well, yeah, 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 and because one of the other ways of getting out, because obviously, if somebody was to die tomorrow, then
Mm.
you know you're going to you're not, because you and I have never seen death, have we? You've never seen death because of all the mind wipes we've had. So we've never seen death, and we may never see death, because I think this world's going to end in the next 5 years. But if somebody were to die in the next 5 years, then they may have to navigate, you know, the post-mortem realms after death, and there is a plan there, you know. So this book that very few people read, and I mean, have you heard of Howdy McCoskey?
Yeah.
Your friend the other day, she'd heard Howdy McCoskey's he's wrote a book
Only
called
recently, yeah, because of
Exit in the
Caroline, yeah.
Cave. Yeah, and he's you know, he's got. I go onto his group sometimes, and I sent, I've exchanged quite a few emails with him about this, that, and once he started doing the Exit in the Cave and what have you, and I said, you need to read this book, and it's called Can You Stand the Truth? The Chronicle of Man's Enslavement. Where's it gone? And he said, yeah, he says, I've got that book. He says, but I couldn't get into it. Now, most people can't, because it's 700 pages long, and it's a difficult read, but it tells you everything that you need to know. And it half the book is references backing up the information that she's presenting, not just from one source, but from many sources, you know, from all the different creation stories, the Greek mythologies, and all of it. It's all supporting the same theory. And of course, you know, you go back to Christ, you know, well, Christ is your father, spiritually speaking. Yeah. And Sophia is your mother, because they created all the divine sparks, Christ and Sophia. They made all the divine sparks. So we are their spiritual children. And obviously they want us back home. Now, Christ came to save the world, you know, or to allow man to, because up until his time, nobody could exit this matrix. You know, he punctured a hole in the fabric of whatever this is, an escape route, we'll call it whatever you like, and that is probably the only one. Now, when he tells people, you know, if you read some of the scriptures, he's not the ones in the Bible, because they've all been taken out. He's gonna say that you need to follow me. Well, you think, well, the guy died 2,000 years ago or whatever it was. How do you follow a dead man? Well, he's not dead if you can actually go back to that time. So if you were to die tomorrow, and you find yourself in the etheric realm, yeah, the etheric brain is the same as the one you've got now, because your etheric brain is the blueprint for the brain that you have. So it'll still be functioning okay. So what you would do, you would, by the power of thought, take yourself back to the time of Christ's crucifixion, yeah, and hang about around there, where there'll be lots of other souls, so to speak, waiting for the day when you can follow him home. Because you can travel in time in the etheric realm, because the boundaries that we have here, this is so dense, you know, so thoughts become things eventually, but most of them just go out there and don't do anything. But there, you know, things may materialize into something instantly, and you can actually follow it home. I mean, that people say, well, that's crazy. But why is it? You know, what else are you going to do? You know, so you know, some people say, well, yeah, don't go down that tunnel of light. Well, what am I going to do? Well, go the other way. And then what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of here? You know, eventually you'll find yourself in the astral bloody realm, where everybody's looking to have a piece of you. And it's a horror. That is the real hell, is the dark side of the astral realm. You know, and the positive side isn't that good anyway, because, you know,
and
even
again,
even the good in this realm has got a bit of bad in it, hasn't it? There's no pure good here, because it's a flawed creation, and even the baddest people might have a hint of goodness in them. That's how it is, you know. So that is a possibility for getting out. The other one, which people ain't going to, you need a lifetime to do it, is to reunite. It's called the holy matrimony, you know, and you move the energy body up from the, you know, your divine spark. You can feel it now, you know, if you're a divine spark, you'll feel that light in the heart area, You'll feel that, if something inspires you, you'll feel that light within. If something spiritually inspires you, you'll feel the light in the heart area. And if you can move that light up to the crown chakra, then you can reunite with your Eve, your I am presence, your other half, your higher self, and then you can get out. Because once you've done that, you're invisible to all the archons, because you then have a free. People say, oh, you've got to raise your frequency. What are they talking about? The frequency of the body or the frequency of your spirit? Because most people ain't got much spirit. They're a plain soul. All your famous people are in this world. All your pop stars and your governments and everything, they're plain souls. That's why they're controlled. You and I could never be a prime minister, because we would never do the evil things that they're asked to do.
Yeah.
They're all controlled mentally, Their thoughts are not their own, and they just do what they're told. That's why you've got all these totally absurd policies coming out now.
I know,
why are you doing that? Doesn't make any sense. It's just
how
beyond
much
madness,
sillier
isn't it?
He literally is. I mean, I follow this guy on YouTube. He's called Joey B Tunes, and he just basically like really dry humor, just roasts the ridiculousness of clown world, clowns and the Nephilim and the rest of it, And again, it's all, everyone's got a piece of this puzzle, and the beautiful thing that's happening on Dark Matters is that I get to have these amazing kind of conversations, and the more I know, the more it just pieces and pieces together. But like you say, it is that yin and the yin and the yang flow. You get the yin and the yang. In the white, there's a black dot, and in the black, there's a white dot. There's good and evil, and there's evil and good, even if it's only a small amount. And it is that kind of,
Well,
even
yeah.
you
I mean,
about
even you and
duality.
me, we do. If you do something really good, you sort of secretly hope that some good will come back to you as a result of doing it, and it actually does. So I give loads of stuff away, and it comes back to me, because it's the nature of this realm. Whatever you give away, it comes back with interest. So I give loads of stuff away, and but I try and do it, purely from a good perspective, and I'm trying to, you need to moderate everything that you're doing, cut out all the excessives and all the addiction, because that's what this life is. It's an addiction to being human, and that's why we're still here. We're addicted to, the things of this world, because
Logan calls the penis in the vagina.
Yeah,
Says we're all addicted to sex or beer or whatever, and it keeps you, yeah.
It does, and that's all the emotions that we get. These are all sent from the astral. These skeptomorphs who feed off us. Yeah. So everybody's thoughts. Yeah, they all go up into the astral, and they feed the skeptomorphs, which are creatures, they sometimes you could call them an egregore or whatever you want to call them, but they're real, and the energy that we give out gets poisoned anyway, because it's got to go through these septic bodies that we're in, full of shit, aren't we? These bodies, everybody's full of shit. So all the thoughts that we have, everything here is damaged goods. And the skeptomorphs then take this energy and feed off it, and then they feed the archons. So, we're feeding two lots. We're feeding the skeptomorphs and the archons, all this toxic thing. And what's happening now is everything's getting poisoned, including the gods. So the gods who would produce the great music for all these pop stars, Stairway to Heaven by, what's the name? Led Zeppelin. You listen to the guitar music on that, absolutely sensational. And your Hotel Californias and the great music of the 60s and 70s, fabulous music. Even the one you mentioned before of, We Got to Get Out of This Place by the Animals, and the other song, the New Orleans song, and the other one, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. They produce great songs with great lyrics. And now the height of pop music is, who is it? What? I mean, there isn't anybody. Who is it? Taylor Swift. I mean, come on. This is the best that they can do now. There are no bands. Somebody did a survey about bands, musical bands. Yeah. there've been no new bands in the last 20 years that have hit the charts. Not one. Because there are no bands, because they don't play the instruments. It's all manufactured synthetic total crap, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
that's why
yeah.
there's no Top of the Pops anymore, because people wouldn't watch it. And the people that go and watch Taylor Swift are the NPCs. You're paying 400 quid to go and watch that garbage. I mean, you know, go and see the Eagles, you know, or you know,
And the rituals as well, aren't they, Lawrence? You know, they are energy having rituals. I mean, if you look at like what they're
yeah.
doing now in like modern pop music, most of it is, you know, and again, we'll use the term Satan loosely because Neil's about to come and trash that. You know, that's a kind of invention really. But you know, yeah, it's definitely it's just a show, isn't it? Again, it's all just a theatre and a distraction to keep you from the
And it's
real
getting
truth and
worse
living.
and worse and worse, Kelly. So
It's getting
the
ridiculous.
moral standards are just going down and down and down. Now in Britain, you know, what's this toilet roll that everybody's talking about? I can't give a crap. That's a brand of toilet roll. I can't give a crap. And then you've got stuff advertised, you know, all stuff on the TV about bloody Tampax and stuff like that. And then Facebook is going to be totally safe. You know, you're looking through your news feed and you've got all these women undressing and just showing glimpses under their dresses and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
all the time it's sexualizing Facebook all the time, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
You must have
Everything's just
seen
going
it.
so
And go into your spam
big.
in Facebook and it's all about sex parties and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything,
Everywhere,
everything's
all moral
so
standards are just
big.
going down and down and down. And of course, people don't care anymore. Now they're bringing in euthanasia for people who've been vaccine damaged. Talking about they're doing it in Canada, apparently. You know, well, let's just kill them
Yeah.
all now. You know, but we,
And people, and the thing is, Lawrence, people are joining these things and queuing up to kill themselves. I mean, that's how clever it's become. You know, back in the day in wars, they'd round people up to kill them. Now people round themselves up and kill themselves. I mean, there's these women who've got these butt implants, like I was watching on that Joy Tunes thing, and I mean, like one butt implants, that's one side of a cheek
yeah,
with another. I mean, you know, it's gone absolutely fucking loony out there. It literally is the clown show, but I do believe that it is designed in a sense for those that have eyes to see, but you've got to kind of go through this journey of it, like we know really, like the true kind of spiritual ascension, if indeed, you know, that's the correct word.
yeah,
Because
but
I do,
you
I'm
know,
like you. I think we are time travelers.
we're
When
not.
I had the three light beams at the end of the bed, I basically came back with the message. You know, I have forwarded my consciousness through time to be with you here now at this your time of ascension. And that I was like, why would I even make that up? That's just weird. So I think we do for, you know, as divine sparks, we are time travelers because, like you say, it goes back to how time is very different relatively to, you know, out there as we're in this matrix or this holographic kind of construct. Because like you say, 12 years
Yeah,
down here will be like, you
just
know,
a
12 seconds up there, you know, or however it works in that sense, isn't it? And it is all to do with time. The legal system, maritime, sea of time, that's what it means. It is to keep us trapped in the sign or the sin, you know. And like you said, going back to the Christ or the Christ or the crystalline is, you know, it's about, I think you mentioned it earlier when you were talking about going out of, was it onto the astral realm? Where we pay, you know, that's why
yeah.
Christ had to pay the debt or the sin of time, isn't it? So we kind of have to, like you say, following the Christ is following through and out, isn't it? In by his example, and we have to embody the principles of the Christ.
Well, yeah,
Of the,
he's the only guy who's actually that I know that managed to escape the Matrix because he came down here to help people and he left, didn't he? And he's gone back out. So it's
yeah,
pointless trying to wake people up. All the divine sparks are waking up to a certain extent. It's just a question of how much. Forget about the rest. You ain't going to wake up the plain souls. You ain't going to wake up the politicians, and you certainly ain't going to wake up the NPCs. You can just do what you can for yourself and know that in the next few years it's going to get quite nasty. You know,
yeah.
this world is
And
going to get quite nasty, and you know, you're
it's
going to do what.
interesting about
I'll tell you how bad it
oh,
is. Where I am now in Wales, and somebody posted
oh,
on Facebook. This woman, she posted. She just came into my newsfeed for God knows what reason. Some group, and there's 3,000 people in the area where I live. It's called a place called Amlock near. I'm not far from there, and she said, just taking a break now. We've booked in 950 people for the flu jab. Well, the population of the town's only 3,000, so they've already got 950 people. But you know, and I thought I could send a link itemizing all the shitty ingredients in the future, but I thought I'd be wasting my time because it won't do any good. You know, we're
Yeah,
wasting our energy trying to wake these people up. They ain't going to wake up. They they just see it in a different slant. They just don't get it.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like I was looking today. So if you look at the Bible, Genesis 1, right? So you want read Genesis 1. Who comes first, man or the animals? Yeah. And Genesis 2, who comes first, man or the animals? Well, Genesis 2 should have been Genesis 1, because Genesis 2 is the etheric realm before we went into dense matter. So in Genesis 2, man came first. Yeah. And man made
yeah,
the animals. And that's why he got to name them, because in Greek, to name them is to create them. And then in Genesis 1, which should have been Genesis 2, yeah, it's the other way around. Yeah, the animals
yeah,
come before the man. So in Genesis 2, which is the etheric realm, that was the man of clay. Yeah.
yeah,
And then in the dense realm that we are, we're the men of flesh and blood. Yeah. So they were the wrong way round.
yeah,
Yeah. They
yeah,
got the flesh and blood first in Genesis 1. That should have been Genesis 2. And it says in Genesis about, you know, and all the fields and the crops were all in place, but they didn't produce any food. That's because they hadn't been projected down to the dense realm. It was only, you know, once we went into the dense matter that the crops would start to produce food, because they didn't in the etheric realm. You don't need food.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's an interesting thing about, this big debate about spirit and the way that we eat and that we're designed to eat meat. I think it took me a long time to kind of work this out and whether I'm right, but I'm kind of right for myself. I think we've definitely hybrids of these archons or whatever and been tweaked and varying things, divine spark in us or nay or whatever. And I think we've been programmed to these kind of blood sacrifices to eat animals. So I think, when people, you get the paradox of the two sides of the argument where you're getting one person saying, yeah, but to eat meat is to kill a life and blah, 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 blah. But then actually, we are kind of designed to eat it. And I think, and spirit, our divine spark, we wouldn't have needed to eat because we wouldn't have this dense physical form. So we would have been like breatharians and living off the light of the sun or whatever we were doing. And I think again, there's when you kind of break that down, that all kind of makes sense as well in relation to
Well,
who we
we're
actually
connected
are
to
as
the,
to
the ultimate creator. We don't need any food, or we didn't need it. But
exactly.
now, I mean, because these skeptomorph creatures, that are feeding off our emotions, they also like blood, and they feed off the women's menstrual blood. So I don't know how they do it, but obviously it goes somewhere, and they feed off it. It's crazy because what is that all about? Women bleeding once a month. It's providing blood
That
for them, isn't
Lawrence, I'm
it?
like, what is this about? Yeah,
What's that all
because
about? It's nonsense, isn't it? I mean,
I even from the other last time I had, nobody needs to know about my menses, but I was just like, what is that about, really? Like, and I think, do you know where that comes from? Again, for me, like even pooping, not that I do because I'm a lady, but all
yeah,
these kind of real dense physical, I wouldn't say it disgusts me, but I just go, like it's not it's kind of abhorrent to me. It's like I don't want to do it because I know that it's not who I am. Like
yeah.
this like
Well, we were
all
horrified when
this.
we came here.
Yeah,
Man, celestial man, when he came here, and he found himself in this dense realm, he found out that, oh, he doesn't absorb energy from the sun or whatever. He's going to have to
yeah,
start mangling up the bodies of other creatures, living creatures, and stealing their life so they can live. And then he's got to poop out all this disgusting matter every day or several times a day for the rest of his life.
Yeah, it's gross, isn't it?
You
And
know,
this is it. And I think these are the kind of things that, we should definitely pay attention to that we kind of don't because we're brainwashed, programmed, in the matrix with these demons, these background programs into thinking that this is normal, that this is real, right?
yeah,
I've got a lot of things invested in this ride, into this hologram. And it's
well,
interesting that you were saying about the 12 because Jupiter, which is why, Rome always worship, Peter. Peter means stone, and stone is the debt that Rome collects. Because again, the legal fiction, the persona, the mask, the all the stuff that they get us to think that we are and identify as, is actually, again, keeping us trapped within that cycle. But 12 is actually the cipher. That's why you get 12 apostles, 12 labors, 12 cranial nerves in the mind, 12 signs of the zodiac. And again, there's no point arguing whether the planets are real. They're archons, they're wanderers, they're archetypes. And we as divine sparks, I believe, created them in the first place. And it is this zodiac, it goes back to this zodiac wheel again that is keeping us just moving through the ages. And that's why we are like a bit of a we would have been that's why we've become slaves to these energies where if you kind of watch the ones the interview we did with Stephen. I had this vision that the druids, I said that they were holding up the dome, and it was Stephen
yeah.
who says no, they held up a protective. We used to have a protective element that protected us from these archons or the negative elements of these archons, which is like that's why they came and slaughtered all the druids. The veil got thicker and thicker. We went heavier and denser into matter from the time of Atlantis. So everything that you said, and again, Jupiter is the keeper of the hologram. He kind of makes us all think that this is all right, this is all okay. But again, it's to do with that debt. It's to do with the sin or the sine wave of time. And as we're starting to see, it's all linked, isn't it? It's all of it's linked. And when we kind of come out of that, like you say, just to look at it logically, to say, why are we pooping? Why pray? To pray is also to prey on other animals. We've become these like babies or sick children, sick puppies of these archons and these bloodthirsty kind of
I know. But that's
controllers, demiurges, whatever.
the body is not us. It's just a prison
Yeah,
for us. But these broad,
yeah,
these bodies like the smell of roasted meat, don't they? Of roasted corpses. They like the smell of it. They like the smell of bacon and roast beef and all that sort of
do.
stuff. And they like alcohol and all that sort of stuff once they've had a taste of it. But we, if truth be known, the divine sparks are actually the royalty on this earth. The actual people that are royalty, there aren't any divine sparks among them. They're
Yeah,
just plain souls. They will continually reincarnate here, and of course, a lot of them they're faking their death. So, like the Queen died and Prince Philip died, and and they're all getting
yeah.
cancer now, and they're making shit up, and all the pop stars die. They're all probably going to David Bowie Island or wherever that is,
I
or the
just
deep underground caverns, wherever, because they know it's all going to end
yeah,
soon, and they don't want to be
yeah,
around when all the shit starts hitting the fan. They know that, don't
yeah,
they? We know these places are there. So we would be
yeah,
the royalty of this world, but this is not our home. It's the royalty are the children of the demiurge, the ones he created with his soul. We are the so-called invaders because we came to help, and they'd rather not deal with us, but they need to deal with us because we're the power source. We
yeah,
I mean, imagine increase your IQ by 20-fold what it is. Imagine what you could actually do because
yeah, yeah,
we might think we're quite bright. Well, we may be compared to other to other humans, but we're not that bright, are we? Considering if I said to you, right, get out of that house now, go and live in the forest, and I want you to make me a candle and bring it back tomorrow, you'd struggle, wouldn't you?
yeah,
You would, wouldn't
yeah,
you? You'd have to go and kill a sheep or something and get all the fat out of it, get some string out of the forest or whatever, melt it all down just to make a candle. Because
yeah.
we cannot manifest anything instantly, can we? Here,
No,
apart from in
no,
your
and like you
dreams.
said, we would have been able to, wouldn't we? And again, it goes back to the stuff we talk about on the other pods, going underground, because they know what's coming, so they're going underground. And I do believe
Yeah,
that they transport their consciousness into different avatar bodies, and without going through the forgetting or the yeah, the brain, the mind
And
wipe and
this world, it's everything is backwards.
mm,
And so everybody in a position of power, all of them, every last one of them, people don't like talking about this on air, but they are all inverted, portraying themselves as the opposite sex to that they were born. All of them. I mean, you can see it. It's like that's what They Live is telling you. If you watch the They Live movie, yeah, and he wears these special glasses, he can see these ugly monsters. But what it's really saying is they can see the inverts. So when you look at the prime ministers, and the presidents, they're all inverts. All your pop music, they're all inverts. The whole bloody lot of them, all of them, every walk of life. Your Bill Gates and all your heads of corporations, every one of them, because they serve the dark side, and to serve the dark side, they have to be inverted, and the same in sport and everything else. So
yeah,
we,
people
the
aren't
real
good at it.
people, we don't get a look in when it comes to being, the best musicians in the world. You ain't never going to hear them. And all these songs that they wrote, they didn't write any of them. They just downloaded it from the dark side. You look at the
Yeah,
fantastic lyrics of all the songs. I don't think the Beatles wrote any of those songs. When I did a presentation about the Beatles, telling the truth about them, I wasn't talking about an inversion. I was just talking about 1966 when they all got replaced with doubles.
mm,
God,
yeah,
and I did the talk in Lytham. Yeah, the place was packed out. Normally, you might get 20 or 30 people. The place was rammed, but it was full of angry
yeah.
faces from Liverpool who'd come over to hear what I was going to say about their precious Beatles. How dare he? How
I
dare
know
this
it's
guy say that Paul
yeah,
McCartney was replaced? No, because everybody knows about Paul McCartney, but the rest of them are all replaced.
yeah.
And they do lots of them, and a lot of these
They do.
so-called people, they're just actors, and they come back in another role, and a lot of it gets put out there. People say no, it's slightly different, but they do. They're just actors, and they're acting for their god, their Matrix god.
Yeah, yeah,
It's mad.
yeah. No,
It's mad.
and people aren't ready for it. And I've been saying to me poor mother, you were bashing ready with this stuff, but I said just wait till that comes out. The real extent of the inversions, and I mean they're doing it. They're coming now for your children, for your sons and daughters in real time to do it to them. Like you don't think that they've been doing it for for a very long time. Like you're all deluded. And again, it is for us to kind of keep shining the light
Well, I
upon
know
all this stuff.
that's what they're doing in the
But the
hospitals now in
Beatles,
Britain.
yeah,
Yeah, did you see that directive they got in the hospitals? So if I went for an X-ray now, if I was I'm too old, but if I was aged between whatever 12 and 50, they would ask
yeah.
me if I'm pregnant, because that's what they've
Oh,
been told
yeah,
to do. Men,
yeah,
somebody who's
yeah.
obviously a man, asking me because they had one person apparently who had, who was actually pregnant, but they'd had the sex change type, some of the stuff, then they bring the director out for everybody, start asking men if they're pregnant.
Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, how much more ridiculous does it have to get before you have the eyes to see it? It is. It's absolutely. And the thing is, once you decode it, once you decode the language, you get into your numerology. I mean, there's a lot to it, and it's a huge study, and everyone's at varying points to it. But we can just keep kind of speaking out about it, really, and just like I say, you've got to
Oh
do the
no,
inner work, man, and get
nothing does
yourself
it,
out.
Steve.
But
On one guy, they took all his videos down, and he presented all the evidence. And his name was Dave Johnson. There's a few residuals out there of his work, and basically, war is a hoax. Yeah, people
yeah,
die
yeah,
in wars because wars they do a lot of construction work, and people might die in maneuvers, or they might use live rounds and somebody gets killed. But no, there is nobody dying in hand-to-hand combat where somebody's sticking a bayonet in somebody else, because people can't do that. It's all made up shit. My dad was one of 6 brothers. Yeah, they all went to war and none of them got hurt, and they all came back. It's ridiculous. All this, and I did some research on this. So if you look I think it was between 1910 and 1920, I looked at the census records and the population, and during that time, yeah, you got the Great War when allegedly millions of people died, yeah, and
mm,
you had the Spanish flu that allegedly killed millions of people. Then you'd think over that 10-year period, the population would die. But no, the population grew between 1910 and 20 with the Great War and the flu than it did between 1920 and 1930. So how would you explain that? You couldn't, could you? You just
Yeah, and
couldn't.
then I mean, I've not looked into that in any kind of detail, so but I do know that there's a the fabrication of our history
Well,
is, I mean, with touching on, I know you've done a really good you do a lot of talks at New Horizons in Lytham St Anne's, I think, isn't it? And there was one obviously about, and we haven't got time, we'll perhaps get you back if you're up for it, to talk about like the petrified titans and the giants, which obviously we've had Larry Cypress on before, and which fits in with Stephen's work. I mean, there's a thread, there's a proverbial thread that you can pull to all this, and without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, the Beatles, Lawrence, is a funny one because wow, don't upset people with that one. Just
well,
they're
it's
so
true.
like
They're
they're
all
so it's
girls,
such a cultural
you
thing,
know,
and they can't cope with it.
and they
People
have to
can't cope,
manufacture
especially
backstories
not
with
the
it.
Scousers.
They do. They manufacture the backstories, like Eric Clapton had a relationships, had sex with 2,000 women. Well, he's a woman. That's why the women are the best guitarists. Look at women's fingers to a man. The men have got the stubby fingers. The slender fingers of a woman are going to make a far greater guitarist. And if anybody's listening, go and look at Gabriela Quevedo. Yeah, that she's a real woman. In
Rodrigo
terms of the
Gabriela,
avatar,
that's
she
the same
she
woman.
she has not made the world stage at all, but she's better than any guitarist ever. You go and listen to
Yeah,
anything that she plays. She plays perfectly, unbelievable.
yeah. Well,
But because
well,
she's
that's
not
it.
one of them, you don't get a
Yeah,
look in. That's how it is. It's like my daughter. My estranged daughter. I haven't seen her for a long time. She's a great singer, but there's a glass ceiling where ordinary people who've got a great talent can't
yeah,
ascend to a bigger stage because they're not part of the inversion.
yeah,
Every time you
yeah,
turn
yeah.
on your telly, and I look at them now, I can't watch movies now. Everything on Netflix, they're all bloody inverted. Go and look at Peaky Blinders. They're all inverts, all of them, every last one. And the missus says, "We want this," and I can't watch it because I can see. I said, "These are all inverts. I don't want to watch it."
Well, I love Peaky Blinders, and I love Killian Murphy, but then somebody put up a post, and he's got those very kind of, V clavicles, and I'm just going, and he's quite short, and I was just going,
Oh, I
not.
watched Peaky Blinders. I thought it was great, but they are. They don't
I
really
know
care.
people will think we're mad, but it is true. The inversion is beyond rife, and people can't begin to fathom it. I said, wait till that one pops out. But yeah, certainly. Well, and going back to, getting out and things that we can do in relation to this, this amazing kind of information. Like you were saying, when you were saying about the body as well, just to touch on that, how, there's all the cremations. And have you seen these new cremation centres on industrial estates, like cheap cremations? So
Yeah,
basically, they'll just come pick you up, stick you in a massive warehouse, and just burn you all. Like, these
yeah,
like kind of slaughterhouses, basically getting ready for what they know, to the amount of bodies that are going to be coming, and from the jibby jabs and all that kind of stuff. How do you know how? Because obviously it's quite an ancient cultural thing, isn't it? And preparing for death, and this idea of preparing in life for a good death from all kind of ancient cultures, whether it be Valhalla, or whether it be the eagle's gift of the kind of those North American kind of shamanic things. I think that is about knowing who you are, be like to go and face all this stuff on the other side, yeah. But how should we prepare our bodies? Do you know that, Lawrence? How we should do it
well,
properly for
I
our
mean, I
souls?
think because apparently the so-called saints, who do help us, apparently, they've preserved their bodies, and if you preserve the dense body to such an extent, the etheric body will remain, and they can do great deeds in that particular realm. So there may be some, good people out there in the so-called etheric realm, but the trouble is, once you're dead, you know, it's out of your hands, isn't it? It's whoever you've left instructions as to what to do with the body, you know. So if you say, well, I want to be buried, and they say, well, I haven't got £8,000 to pay for your burial, you're going to have to be cremated. You're going to have to say, well, don't cremate me for 40 days at least. Give me a bit of chance, or just shove me in the deep freeze and forget about me.
Or
Because
is there
they've
a
got
wheelie
laws
bin?
about all this stuff, though, haven't they? You can't do your own burials now, can you? You've got to pay about
Oh,
whatever it
exactly.
costs. They want
Well,
2,000 quid for a plot of land, just a little,
yeah,
tiny square to bury people in, which is ridiculous. But that's everybody up until about 1880, because I looked it up. The cremations were illegal,
yeah,
and now it's the
yeah,
norm. Most people get cremated now, don't they? This
yeah.
is the
Not me.
norm. I mean,
There was
look, I'm not trying to wind
a
anybody up
qualify
or
me.
scare anybody, but just imagine that, because the dead body is still connected etheric to the etheric body. If
Yeah,
that became a huge meal for the archons, the burning body creates pain in the etheric body. Could you imagine that?
yeah,
It doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly. So they're
You
still
imagine
connected at
what
that
happened to all the Cathars, the Gnostics, the Cathars of the 13th century, whenever, they burned lots of them. They got burnt alive rather than go along with the Catholic Church.
time.
They built pyres and burnt them, pushed them over
The
cliffs
the
onto pyres of fires, and
mm,
they burned them
yeah.
all. That's going to be a lot of loosh, isn't it?
Oh yes, yes. And like I said, they burnt the witches, didn't they? Which would have been
Yeah.
basically like, intelligent, divine spark, healing women of old, like calling us all witches and tying us to the stake, burnt them. But again, there's the Tibetan Book of the Dead, isn't there? There's the Egyptian Book of the Dead, all these books, and they're from my studies and guests we've had on, the Egyptians, it was a time. Egypt, it comes from the Greek Egyptos. It was like that they didn't actually exist. It was just a school of thought. But yeah, to read through these books, I think they do go into how you prepare the body, after death, and how you prepare the mind and body and
Yeah.
spirit for death. And it's all those kind of things that have been hidden and forgotten. And as we've gone denser and denser and thicker and thicker,
Well,
but I think things are. As Neil would say, as our sun and Sirius move together, we're coming into this age again of enlightenment where we're starting to use all our brains again. And, who knows, but if the world's ended in 5 years, Lawrence, I better get cracking.
no, seriously, no,
Where's that
no. Just look at the way things are going now. It's
on the
it's
timeline? Yeah,
accelerating all the time into absolute a world tyranny, isn't it? So people are going to be
yeah,
so fed up with. I mean, look at this guy who's come into office, Starmer, yeah. And the
mm,
first thing they do, they're supposed to look after the common folk, the people. What did they do? They scrap the
it's true.
heating allowance, and then put all the price of electric up. They're
Yeah,
just pissing everybody off. So when somebody come along with the solution for the one world government that's going to be very
yeah,
benevolent, so they say, people are going to say,
yeah,
yeah, we've had enough of this lot, because the Tories in the Labour,
yeah,
whatever government gets in, screw it all up, make your life a misery. People are going to be ready to accept, or we won't, ready to accept whoever comes in, and whatever they say is going to, they say, well, yeah, and we're going to have this digital currency now, and you need to do this and you need to do that. You need to take this little microchip, inject it into your veins, and that's it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in our lifetimes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
And
how
there's
old are you?
going to be
45. So you might ordinarily live to about 85. Could you imagine being 85 years old and what this world would be like if it was still here? Look how bad it's got in the last 5-10 years. Unbelievable,
yeah,
hasn't it?
yeah,
You know, it might,
exactly. Yeah,
it's just unthinkable. It cannot continue. It's going to end. But some people say, "Oh yeah, the end is nigh." People have been saying that for years, and so it gets laughed upon. People laugh at you when you say the world's going to
yeah,
end soon, but it is. I mean, I've been here. I know I've been here before, and I know
yeah,
everything is recorded. You can actually travel in time in this realm, because I told it to Ant. I've told it in my New Horizons talks, and because I was looking at out of body stuff, um, and I moved out of this body into my 2-year-old body for 10 seconds, and it was the most exhilarating thing I've ever felt, because you forget what it's like to be a kid without a care in the world. And now you're carrying the
yeah,
weight of the world on your shoulders, and you're spending all your time worrying about what you've done and what you're going to do. Very people focus on the now, do they? They just don't live for the now. I mean, they just,
yeah,
oh, I can't enjoy this because I've got to do this. It's all
yeah,
about getting money, isn't it? Whatever you do, we all need to get some money, at least from somewhere, to keep a roof over your head and to, fill your
yeah,
bodies with food. It's just a
yeah,
rat race, isn't it? And of course, they soak up all your spare time with these screens,
Yeah,
these
yeah.
square
The black,
boxes. They
yeah,
made
the
a
black
song
cubes
about
of
that, didn't they?
Saturn.
19th. You read that
Yeah.
song in the 60s? Little
Oh yeah,
little boxes, and they're all made out of ticky tack, and they all look the
yeah,
same. So you live in a box, you watch your box, you get in the car to the box, you go to your office at work, and there's a little box there. You get up in the morning, you have your box of
I
cereal.
remember.
You go home from work at the night, and you turn on the box, and then when you die, they
Yeah,
put you in a box in the ground. I mean, if you're lucky, you know. So it's all about looking at screens, isn't it? This is where this is because they what they ultimately want is people to live their life on the internet, because Facebook call themselves now, don't they? What does it? What's their new name for Facebook? What do they call
the
itself?
metaverse, isn't it?
They're calling
Called the
themselves the
meta.
metaverse now, aren't they?
Yeah,
Because that's where they're
yeah,
going, you know, and that's what they want. And all these young kids, they're all going to buy into it, aren't they? You know, how many are not going to buy into it? They're doomed.
yeah,
They're doomed.
yeah.
There's a few of us that are
Well,
going to escape. You know, we just got
yeah,
to say no to whatever they come up with. Whatever the majority say they're going to do, we have to do the opposite. Yeah, we
yeah,
might need to
yeah,
leave this country and go somewhere, but wherever that may be, it'll come to you. You know, you'll get some help for where you need to
yeah,
go. Because I think we may need to leave Britain, because
yeah. I,
Britain and America are the two culprits that they're going to shaft first. You know, you can
yeah,
see what's happening. Well, look what's happening in America with these natural disasters. Everybody's getting shafted there. You know, I mean, you
yeah,
look at the food that they get compared to us. Their food is absolute total shite. You buy a bar of chocolate there and a bar of chocolate here. They're not the same ingredients. You buy some
no,
Heinz ketchup there and Heinz ketchup here. Ours is a lot better because the Americans are
yeah.
fed total shite and they get like whatever 48 injections by the time they're 12. No wonder they're shafted.
It's insane, isn't it? And I always say, I mean, you're a northerner, originally from Stockport, I think you said. I'm from Bolton. There's a lot of, Larry's north. There's loads of us Yorkshire men. I believe like if this ship's gonna sink, and I do believe this is Albion, this is the land that the people of the Covenant. They say to move north, to the celestial pole at the end of all days. But everyone's got their own ideas about that. But I'm like, yeah, I'll go down with my ship. Though, see where I'm up to in a couple of years. Maybe I'll buggered off to a beach in Cambodia or something.
Well,
But it's like you
no,
say, it's
who
that.
knows? It's all laid out for you. We may well be already out of here because we're just viewing time linearly. So we've already lived this life. You've already lived your
Yeah,
life now. You're just observing it one frame at a time, and you may well be out
yeah,
of here, but you can't actually see the benefits of that until you've actually gone through every
yeah,
frame of the movie. You're watching the movie of your own life, aren't you? And when you get
yeah,
to the
yeah,
end of the movie, that's it. We're out. But I imagine that the next 1,000 years, hopefully, we're in this place of transition, a beautiful place, wherever it is, where we get, basically, you go there to have your soul cleansed, to have all,
yeah,
not for them to feast upon the energies that are in it, but to have it cleansed, you know, because our spiritual mother cannot go home. She's in a place in between the matrix and the real light. She's in a place
yeah,
above us, but not in the place. She can't go home until she's got all her light back, because
yeah.
the
It's
demiurge
us.
stole the light. He
Yeah,
stole the light from his mother, and they got the light back by conning the demiurge to breathe into the humans, which was the light within the soul. So
yeah.
he wasn't very happy about that. And that's why he needs to steal our energy, because he gave it all back to us.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And
So we,
like you
but
say,
we
there's
have,
going to be a lot of deceptions and tricks, and before those kind of the real. I mean, we're in the end days, in the end of that cycle at least, anyway.
you just
Because
got to
I do
preserve
believe
yourself for the
everything.
next 5 years. Make sure you're going to be all right, But there is a plan for everybody. We're all, there is a guardian angel out there, not from this world. The guardian
Yeah,
angels that people talk, these are the angels of poverty, of this world. They may look after you as a divine spark, but only in the way that a shepherd will look after the sheep, which he's eventually going to slaughter. Because eventually they might not chop our bodies up, but they will slaughter. Well, historically, they will slaughter you in terms of stealing all the energy trapped in your soul and having a feast
yeah,
from it. That's what the Hotel California is about. You know, they
Mm.
stabbed it with the steely knives, but they just couldn't kill the beast. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's all in the code of it,
These
isn't it? You
songs, I
know,
mean, yeah,
everything
even the, you know,
tonality.
even that song, you know, people don't get it. You know, my guitar gently weeps. Yeah, because some of these
Yeah,
people don't want to do. Can you imagine living your whole life inverted as the opposite sex? And that song, my guitar gently weeps, and it says they didn't know they was inverted, they were perverted. Words to that effect. It's saying in the song, they're telling you in the song what they did.
yeah, yeah. Wow.
Because they did, you know, because they can put it out there. You know, it's like the Greek mythology has probably got more truth than anything because people won't believe it because it's like, you know, it's not science fiction, but it's seen in the same light, isn't it? Whereas the Bible, they've had to make lots of alterations to that and have lots of omissions, like reincarnation, which is removed from the Bible, you know, but it's all
Yeah,
over the place there. They had to take it out because it didn't fit their agenda.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And like I say, I do think this place is telling you in a huge range of mediums. If you listen to it, and I do think there is this timeline split, and it's all. I said it in the introduction with Joe. It's like there's two timelines whispering and or talking to me, and I can hear them both. You know, and like you said, like I said earlier, our origin myths stay very similar. You know, they're surprisingly consistent, and we can follow that thing. And there's going to be a lot of deceptions before the end because the devil, you know, if you want to call it the devil or the demiurge or whatever, Sirius, Satan, Saturn, Set,
Yeah,
whatever, it's going to play, like you say, the biggest one is, like you said, they're going to run everything so much into the ground. Oh, everything's been so satanic. So they can come with the problem, but they do the reaction solution. And that's going to look very benevolent. You know, there's that trickster God, that low-key nature. And it is about just keeping, you know, saying no to it, really. But,
but
you know,
there is
keep hold the line
yeah,
out there.
there is the third category. So if you said to me, you know, what happens if I don't take the mark of the beast and I
Mm.
don't manage to escape the matrix, you know, because I like this reality too much. What's going to
Yeah,
happen to me? Well, the line of thought there that I've come across is that, you know, uh, what you will do, you'll be you'll be doing. Let's say you weren't going to get out. Yeah, hopefully you'll get out. But let's say you'll be doing a podcast one day. Yeah, chatting to somebody, and then in the twinkling of an eye, you'll find yourself back in the 10th century tending some sheep or planting some potatoes back in the first of your 12 lives with no memory
yeah,
of this current life, but with all the memory that you had up to the age that you were back then. They'll just move you because they can move you back in the movie. You know,
yeah.
I mean, all you do with some video film, you just wind it back to the start, which is what it says on the Illuminati card. You know, the game go back to Old Kent Road or go back to do not collect £200. So you go back, you know, well, at least it won't be so polluted then. And maybe you have to go back and do all these
Yeah.
lives again. And you're going to have to wait nearly 1,000 years till the internet comes out again for your next opportunity to escape.
Oh my God. Yeah,
You know,
this is it, innit?
I mean, that's what I think happens.
The
You know, that's
line.
why we're here
I'm
now.
ready.
I mean, obviously, there's like the Groundhog Day one where
Mm,
you've got these 12 lives, but you only some people say, well, you just have the one life, so you go
yeah,
back to being Callie, back in the year that you were born, and you live the
yeah,
exact same life again. That's where you get the deja vu, when you know what's going to happen, which we do,
yeah,
and you do it all again, and you've got free will. The chances are you're going to do everything more or less exactly the same. Why would you do anything different? You might occasionally do something different, but it's not until you
right.
actually do something different that you're actually going to get out. So you have to do something different this time round to what you did last time. Because last time I may have thought we was going to get out, but we didn't, did we? We were back here
Yeah.
doing it all again.
Well, and
But
it
when I
shows
was
you
a child, I knew there was something wrong. I knew I didn't belong here. I wouldn't join in with any of the kids' birthday parties. I just stood at one side and watched it. I
yeah,
knew.
yeah.
I didn't, I just knew.
I
But
do.
eventually you get
It's
integrated into the society and you go along with whatever
yeah.
it is because you have to, don't you? But
Yeah,
I
but
knew I didn't belong here.
it is a deep knowing and a deep remembering. It's like even that scene in the Matrix when he goes and meets the architect, doesn't he? You know, the father of
Yeah,
the Matrix, and he says, "Oh, he says this version of you is you know, you've oh yeah, you've been here many times before, you know." And he comes back more and more refined until he gets out and wins the game. You know, that's what Neo does. Like that's shown in the movies, but. Well, wow.
yeah.
I didn't think I could box my head anymore, Lawrence, in a beautiful way, but wow. Talking about boxes, but yeah. So, like I said, we've been
No,
chatting for two
seriously,
hours.
yeah, because we go to all these parallel universes or somewhere in dreams. Because I've had relationships in dreams, but I know it wasn't here. Um, and I was saying about, I've actually looked in the mirror in a dream twice. I've looked in an
Yeah.
actual mirror, and it wasn't the me here today, somebody else. And somebody put out
Yeah.
a video the other day about what you should do if you're awake in a dream is to grab hold of something solid. Well, I've actually
Mm.
tested the solidity of dreams by tapping on a wooden table, and it was as solid as what it is here. If you grab hold of something really solid, yeah, if you want
Yeah.
to try it, and then scream or whatever, try and wake yourself up in your bed if you know you're in your bed,
Mm.
um, and you won't. You'll stay
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you are.
Oh,
Then you've got the problem of getting. I think all this NDE stuff that's going out, it's not helpful. I don't see any point in going into their playground because it's populated by the dark side, isn't it? By the archons and their people masquerading as other people. Why would you want to go there?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If you got the
Yeah.
choice, why
And
would you
that's that
go?
realm. Is that the
You know,
astral realm? You broke up a bit then, Lawrence. Were you talking about the astral realm there?
well, the dreams can be in the etheric realm and the astral realm.
Right. Okay.
But
Yeah.
but you look at these, they just. I mean, I've had times when I knew I was dreaming, and I was telling
Mm.
everybody in the dream that I was dreaming. And I said to these guys,
Yeah.
I was back where I was working in 1990 in Milton Keynes. I used to work for the post office at the head office in the parcel division in Milton Keynes, and I'm going up and down, and I saw all these people, and I thought, well, it's 2024 now. It's a recent dream, and I'm thinking, God, my boss there, she was a woman. She was about 55 then. I thought, well, she must be getting on for 90 now. She didn't look a day older. And all the people I recognised, and I'm sat down chatting to all these people at work that I used to know, and they hadn't aged a day. And I thought, well, if you look at yourself, if you find a mirror and you look at yourself in a dream, you'll be 25. You'll be at your residual self-image. That's what it is. I saw my dad. My dad, committed suicide. Well, he starved himself to death. And he was a week short of his 90th birthday, and he wouldn't see anybody. So I wanted to see him, and I saw him in a dream. And he used to be in the Guards, Grenadier Guards. That's the only picture I've ever seen of him at age 25. And I saw my dad and gave him a hug in this dream, and he was a young man. He was 25 because in dreams, in the dream world, you don't really age. It's just down in this dense realm where everything appears to get old. So if you get in a
Yeah.
dream, a lucid dream, and know that you're dreaming, then seize it as an opportunity because you can have some fun. You can test things out. And I ask questions. So this 1919 post office place where I was working, I asked them, well, what year is this? And they said some ridiculous year, like 2030 or 2040. And I was saying, well, what do you mean 24? And they said, oh, they changed it all. But then I woke up. They won't let me find out what the reason was. I think there's people in money. I mean, look at the world. There's 8 billion people here, and a lot of them NPCs and what have you. And even all the animals, everything dreams. And somebody's got to organize all these dreams. And even if they're random, somebody's got to organize people to have random dreams. If you go and have a sleep in the afternoon and fall asleep for an hour, somebody's got to give you a dream, haven't they? Well, where's that coming from? Who's organized it? What should we give Kelly this afternoon for her dream? It's every day, isn't it? And you spend a third of your life in this other world
Mm.
dreaming, and we've got no control over it, and we're having to
Yeah.
shut our bodies down because dreaming is an out of body experience, but people associate the out of body where you're out of body and you know you're out of body and you can see yourself asleep in the bed. That's an out of
Yeah.
body experience, the way you can actually see it.
Yeah.
But
And I
if
think
you
there
was
is
in a dream and you could and you knew, and because I'm never in a dream where anywhere I recognise apart from when I was down in Milton Keynes, if you could actually find your way back to where you live, you could actually see yourself asleep in the bed. Yeah, Robert
yeah,
Monroe, chandelier. He
yeah,
was floating above his own body. You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's a bit frightening to do that because obviously if you're outside your body, you think, God, I need to get back. Because apparently we've got this silver cord that attaches,
mm,
this mythological silver cord that's
yeah,
there connecting you, in your dreams back to this dense body.
yeah. Yeah, no,
But yeah,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and apparently lucid dreaming is one of the ways, if you practice it, that, you're preparing yourself again for a good death. You're preparing yourself for being able to navigate that etheric realm in a
as long
much
as you're not
better,
cremated, yeah,
as long as you're not cremated. And it's very like Inception, isn't it? When he spins the little
yeah,
and you have these markers to be able to, is this real or is this a dream? And I think that's what we kind of experience here anyway. Again, merrily, merrily, life is but a dream, etc. Row, row, row your boat,
yeah.
but let's hope we can row our boats the fuck out of Dodge, as we say, Lawrence. But thank you so. We'll round it up there because obviously I'm aware we've been chatting. I could chat to chat you all day about this stuff,
Well,
but
yeah,
we've
you're
been
running
chatting
out of
for about
bandwidth,
2 hours.
probably. Yeah.
You'll have to come on for some specifics. We'll get some questions off people or do a specific topic because I'd love you to come on and talk about the petrified titans, perhaps, because that fits in heavily with where we're going with a
Well,
lot of the
yeah,
work
just
you've been
before you go, I mean, I
doing.
manifested one because I was out walking in Anglesey near Newborough
Yeah.
Beach. And I said to
Yes, I
my
know.
other half, I said, I'm going to find the fingertip of a 60-foot giant. And I got down to the beach and I actually found a fingertip. You could see the nail bed, and the fingerprints on this rock. And I did a talk at Ants when he had the pub in Chorley or whatever it was, Lancashire. He had a pub.
Yeah. Yes,
I
he
went
did.
there to do
Yeah.
a talk about the Mandela effect, and I gave this fingertip to this guy who did the poetry.
Yeah.
This thing weighed a ton, but it was a fingertip. And I manifested it. It just came there, but because it's like all the rocks, everything, everywhere. It's all bodies. So
It's
that's why
alive.
Jesus said, "He who has discovered the world has found a corpse, and he who has found the corpse, this world is not worthy of him." You discovered that
Wow.
you're
Wow.
in the bloody matrix. But that's not in the
Wow. I didn't
Bible.
know
That's not in
that.
the Bible. It's in
Wow.
one of the Gospels of Thomas or somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you go
Wow.
because I know you're got to
No.
get things done.
No, no, that's not. Honestly, it's been absolute. I knew it'd be an absolute mind blowing and a pleasure
Well, you
chatting to
might
you
need to
from
edit
the
it a bit,
interviews
yeah.
I've seen you do. The ones that are still up anyway, and I will link a few of them below, which links over to Ant as well, if people want to kind of watch your chats there, which I highly recommend. But yeah, I'd love to have you back if you're up for doing a part two. We always get people back because there's just so much to chat about, and it's been absolutely fascinating, an absolute pleasure. And it's answered quite a few things for me and connected quite a few dots, which I'm sure it will for quite a lot of people who follow the channel. So again, thank you very much, Lawrence.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. Cheers. Nice doing it. Thanks, Cal. Take it
Oh,
easy.
thanks, Lawrence. Thanks so
Yeah.
much. And we'll catch
We'll
you
see you
next time,
soon.
everybody.
Bye bye.